It's 6 p.m. Eastern from a beautiful and balmy New York City. Okay, it's 7 degrees with a wind chill. This is the Daily Wrap. And welcome to the Wrap, everybody. I am Joe Concha, joined tonight by Newsmax TV staple and co-host of Close Encounter with Monsignor Jim Lasante. Lisa Jandovitz is here.
Hi, Joe. Thanks for... I'm glad to be here.
Okay, she's shy sometimes.
Next,
he writes for Forbes magazine, has his own radio show with Michael Steele on Sirius XM Radio, Saturdays at 11 p.m. Or sorry, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, 11 p.m. is a little past bedtime, and is frequently abused by Newsmax TV show bookers. Rick Unger, everybody.
First time you've been right all week. I am very definitely in bed by 11 p.m.
We learned something new tonight. Finally, she is one of Philadelphia's finest attorneys and Rocky Balboa's #1 fan. I think it's actually the other way around. Heather Hansen is
both.
here.
It's both. Good to be here.
Good to see you. All right, everybody. It's time for the Daily Download. And for those who say the fight against ISIS isn't a war against radical Islam, and yes, that includes President Obama, maybe this will change your mind. Over the past weekend, ISIS beheaded 21 Coptic Christians in Libya after they were taken hostage in December and January. In response, Egypt and Libya launched airstrikes against ISIS targets in response and have asked the U.S. for assistance. Meanwhile, in Iraq, ISIS released video claiming to show 17 Kurdish fighters locked in cages being paraded through the streets of Kirkuk as militants cheered. Here you see the video of the 21 Coptic Christians as they're being marched along the Mediterranean. We will not show you the rest of that video. This is the video of those Kurds in Kirkuk who are being marched through the streets. Militants are cheering. They're in cages. You know what that means. They very easily could face the same fate as the Jordanian pilot who was captured and, of course, burned to death that we learned about 10 days ago. And finally, in Denmark, a man who is described as looking Arabic attacked a free speech event held by a Swedish cartoonist, killing a Danish film director and injuring 3 police officers. Then hours later, he opened fire on a synagogue, killing a Jewish man and wounding 2 police officers. This all happened over the past weekend. If it's not obvious by now, the West, and quite frankly, anybody who isn't ISIS, has a serious problem on its hands. And right now, I'm joined by former U.S. Army Ranger and Master Sniper, Nicholas Irving, who has a great book out, by the way, The Reaper, autobiography of one of the deadliest special ops snipers. Definitely go read it. I'm in the 2nd chapter, and I'm already hooked. Nicholas, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
So let's start with the attack on Denmark. Right now, what can Western cities do to prevent this kind of attack?
Just beef up their national security, their homeland security. I don't think that there's anything you really can do to, I guess, necessarily prevent it 100%, but always being on the ready, being on standby. That was one of the things we harped on in the Ranger Battalion, was always being, on the ready. It's pretty much all you can do.
Is there anything, I'm sorry, is there anything stopping a sympathizer for ISIS, like an outright member of ISIS or Al-Qaeda, from walking into a synagogue or coffee shop in Kansas City and attacking innocent people? It just seems like if they're willing to take their own lives, it would be a very difficult thing to stop.
Exactly. I don't think that there's anything that they won't do at this point. The only way to, I guess, stop them is to actually take the fight to them 100%. These bombing raids and dropping 500-pound, guided bombs, munitions on their houses is not really making an impact on that situation. I think we need to put a small element of special operations on the ground. Nothing big, not a significant footprint, but just something small. Things that we did when I was operating overseas, with just small unit tactics and going into their houses and eliminating those targets.
I don't have any military experience. I've never served, obviously, the way you have, and I guess as a layman, I watch this just from a journalistic perspective, and we know where they are. I know they don't have an air force, and I just don't understand how ISIS could possibly be expanding, or how they aren't just completely eliminated when we could just drop drones or just fly over them and drop bombs on them. I understand we need boots on the ground, and we need it from an international coalition, including Middle Eastern boots on the ground. That would be nice. I just don't understand, if they don't have an air force and we have that kind of superiority, how they're even surviving, let alone expanding.
Well, everywhere ISIS is at in Iraq, I deploy to that region. Anywhere from Baghdad to Krit, Mosul, I deployed to all three of those regions in Iraq. And um, bombs only do so much. Not to get too into detail, but I can recall throwing grenades in rooms and everyone walks out alive, or having a suicide bomber strapped with explosives blow up, a couple of feet from us. Bombs only do so much. Putting a bullet through someone takes care of the business. They have a lot of underground safe houses, places to travel or whatnot, and bombs can't penetrate that. It's almost like the Afghan war when we first started in 2001. We used B-52s to drop thousands and thousands of pounds of bombs, and it barely did anything to them.
Amazing. And then my final question to you, President Obama said in an interview in the New Yorker, was in January, I believe, where he said that Al-Qaeda resurgence in Iraq would be similar to a JV team putting on a Lakers uniform. That was actually last year. And it doesn't make them Kobe Bryant. And quite frankly, with the season that Kobe had until he got injured, it's probably not the comparison that would really be relevant at this point. Anyway, since he made that comment, do you think the president finally understands fully the threat that ISIS poses?
Oh, definitely, especially with the videos they have coming out. These guys at this point, they're cocky. They feel unstoppable. They've avoided our bombs being dropped. It's time to put, a small team of ground troops on the ground and take the fight to them. I've never met an enemy face to face who stood his ground when I have a weapon pointed at him. He's never stood his ground. And those guys cower out. They turn into cowards pretty much when you're face to face with these guys. Dropping bombs only does so much, but having a face to face meeting with these guys and sending them to wherever they believe in, that's what I think the situation should go from here.
And when it comes to special ops and SEAL teams, Nicholas, we certainly have the right people to do it. We saw it with Osama bin Laden. I know that was just one person, but I agree with you, and it seems the American people, according to the polls we're seeing, are agreeing with you as well. Nicholas, thanks so much for coming on. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Rick, we only have about 30 seconds, but certainly the heat is being turned up on the White House right now.
It is. I think you have to be careful how you turn that heat up. I think the conversation has to begin to turn more to understanding there was a strategy. It did not work. We did not degrade them. We're not going to degrade them. We have to flip our strategy, but we have to give the White House an opportunity to do that.
And it seems at this point, just quickly, that the president just doesn't want to say ground troops because he's afraid of the backlash.
Yeah, I think that's true. There's a lot of things the president doesn't like to say. That doesn't mean he's not doing it. And I'm much more concerned with what we do than what we say.
Okay, we'll have to end it on that note. So coming up next, we'll have more on ISIS. This is obviously the story of the day. This is the Daily Wrap, and it's only on Newsmax TV from New York City. And welcome back to the show, everybody. I am Joe Concha, joined by Lisa Jandovitz, Rick Unger, and Heather Hansen. We are going to continue our discussion on the war against radical Islam. And joining me now is Major General Paul E. Ballily. He's the founder and president of Stand Up America. General, thanks for coming on. We appreciate it.
Okay, Joe. Happy to be with you again.
So let's talk strategy on fighting ISIS and Al-Qaeda. Yesterday on CNN State of the Union, former CIA Director Leon Panetta said ISIS is taking terrorism to the next level.
ISIS truly represents kind of a whole new phase in the war on terrorism. We're dealing with an enemy that is well-funded. We're dealing with an enemy that has strong command and control. And we're dealing with an enemy that is well-armed. And as a result of that, I think that they can conduct the kind of offensive operations that can be very effective and that have to be met tooth and nail with everything we've got. That's the reality. ISIS is a whole new chapter in terms of the terrorist threat to that area and to our country.
Now, General, I hear you have some new intel out of Syria. Can you share it with us?
Well, there's some new information coming out of Iraq, Syria, and Libya, probably more out of Libya today, Joe, than any. But there have been some more captures, I understand, not confirmed yet, perhaps of a Russian officer that was captured in Syria. So we'll see if that occurs. We get more definitive information on that. There's still the big threat there to the air base where we have 300 Marine advisors near the town of al-Baghdadi. They have not neutralized the ISIS forces, which I understand may be growing in the al-Baghdadi area, up over 100 now perhaps, but they're looking to bring in air, if they can, and reinforcements into the air base there, if required, to support and to protect the Marines that are there now.
Now in Anbar, that's pretty open territory, right? I'm just surprised that they're
Very.
within 5 miles or 5 kilometers. That, and I posed this question to my last guest. If we could see them from the air, why can't we just take them out? They have underground tunnels, or are they embedded with civilians in a smaller town or village? Educate me on that a little bit.
Well, I don't think they've had time to dig a lot of tunnels in this, unless they were there before. I've been in that area. It's a wide open area, very few trees. When you look out there in an arid desert type of environment, when I was in Fallujah, you look all around that area. Listen, ISIS has to travel by those brand new Toyotas they've had for a while, at least for a month. I've seen some new ones on some of the video that's been run. They're getting those out of Turkey, as I understand. But they have to use the roads to travel. So with air ground operations, we have eyes on the ground, which are special ops guys. We've got to put them out there by helicopter, insert them into an area where they can watch and then coordinate with the drones overhead, as well as the satellite photos we have in that area. We can read a license plate on an automobile from our satellite, so we can track them as they move, and we need to be taking them out as we can with air ground operations, and even using the special ops to go in on raids with the Iraqis to neutralize them wherever they are. We've got to flush them out. And if we don't do that, then they're going to continue to grow and expand throughout what we call the Levant area, which goes all the way from Turkey down to the Sinai.
Do you think we're using special ops right now, and just the president
Sure.
right on through? We are. Okay, so boots on the ground.
No, they're over there. We have boots on the ground. We have thousands of boots on the ground in Kuwait. We have boots on the ground in Turkey. So when they say boots on the ground, Joe, they're more referring to conventional battalions and brigades, armor brigades, infantry brigades, versus the special operations forces.
But are they training, or are they actually engaging ISIS on the ground in actual firefights?
Well, as I understand it, they've been given a restricted rule of engagement. They will only be in an advisory role. They will protect and self-defend as they can.
And ISIS continues, as we saw this weekend, with those beheadings, those horrible beheadings. That the video has been taken down from YouTube, we should add. Its expansion into Libya. Why Libya, and how big can ISIS get?
This is very big in Libya. The amount of weapons inventories there that we found out during our Benghazi investigation, it's ripe all over that area. Now, I would not be surprised that President El-Sisi will step up. I wouldn't even be surprised if he used his armed infantry brigades to go cross-border and wipe out those villages in eastern Libya, because they are a direct threat to the Egyptian people now. So General El-Sisi, like King Abdullah, he's taking the initiative, he's going on the offensive, and he must clear and neutralize that area in Libya that's a direct threat on the borders of Egypt.
He's certainly passionate and certainly engaged at this point. Thank you, Major General, for coming on. We certainly appreciate it. That was Major General Paul E. Vallely, founder and president of Stand Up America. Now, Heather, in that ISIS video with the beheadings, which we're not going to show, an American-speaking terrorist says, quote, "Recently you've seen us chopping off the heads that have been carrying the cross for a long time. And today we are in the south of Rome, on the land of Islam, Libya, sending another message." The president said this isn't a religious war, but that appears to be telling a different story.
And isn't it all about the story? I mean, they deal in propaganda. And what's the response to propaganda? In my opinion, it should be truth. It should be knowledge. So I think that we should be talking about the fact that they are targeting different religions. Whether or not it's Islam or some variation of Islam, we need to talk about that. We need to talk about how are we going to best respond to it. There's a summit coming up this week on counter-extremism, coming up Wednesday and Thursday. We need to talk about the way to best respond to this, instead of just putting our heads in the sand and pretending it doesn't happen.
Lisa?
But the president does not want to identify them as radical Islamists. I mean, he was very clear to point out during the breakfast, the National Prayer Breakfast, that it was during the Crusades, it was Christians that were killing in the name of Christ, but these are not radical. He does not seem to want to put that label on it, which.
But that needs to be part of the conversation. So you've got radical Islam, you've got Islamists,
Right.
you've got Muslims that are not part of this group. I know, Rick, you don't think that it should have anything to do with religion, but it does. It does because they...
No, I'm not saying it shouldn't. It does have something to do with religion. The problem is that we're getting so into the dialogue of religion, I don't care what the president says, I care what the president does. And this never-ending conversation about will he use extremist Muslims, and I don't care. I want him to formulate a new strategy. I don't think the original strategy worked. I want it to be a strategy that will wipe these you-know-whats off the face of the planet. He can say whatever he wants to say. Anybody pretending that he has to say certain words to make it work is silly.
Okay, we have to end it on that note. Coming up next on the wrap, it's potluck time. We just dropped a potluck, as a matter of fact. You know, the segment where we talk about our favorite stories of the day. This is the Daily Wrap, and it's only on Newsmax TV. And welcome back to the Daily Wrap, everybody. I am Joe Concha with Heather Hansen, Rick Unger, and Lisa Jandovitz. Well, it's time for some potluck. Potluck is our segment, of course, where each of us brings a story to the table, just like someone would bring a dish to a potluck dinner. You got it? Okay, good. Let's start with Heather Hansen. What are you cooking up?
You know, everyone's watching the American Sniper trial, the trial of Eddie Ray Routh, who shot and killed Chris Kyle and his friend Chad Littlefield. And my issue is there's so much anger at Eddie Ray Routh for having killed Chris Kyle, and there's not a lot of anger at the VA, who are really the entity that put Eddie Ray Routh in this position.
How so?
He had been admitted to the VA 3 different times, the Dallas VA, which in the past has been called the worst VA in the country. He had been let go all 3 times, and all 3 times given a host of medications that are for something other than post-traumatic stress disorder, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, never kept, never given the appropriate treatment. And if you look at what's happening in the VA in our country as it stands, we already know there's a major problem. I think that you're going to see in this trial, and I hope that you do, a real trial about the VA and how they treated him and how they let him go and how they put him in a position where this could happen. And I think it's something that we need to talk about when we're talking about this case.
Well, it was interesting. I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. I'm with you all the way, Heather. I really am. I hadn't thought about it that way, but I do hope the VA becomes a part of this procedure. I have been banging on the VA for quite some time now. They've got to get better. This is our #1 commitment in this country. We cannot call ourselves an exceptional country if we can't keep our bargain with our veterans.
Well, and I think, too, it may lend itself to a defense verdict because
Right.
enough people, you know, you look at Andrea Yates, who was first convicted but then got not guilty by reason of insanity in Texas when people were getting aware of postpartum depression. And now there's a raised awareness of post-traumatic stress disorder, and that brings this to mind.
What was interesting, though, is that he was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress syndrome or disorder, but he didn't see combat.
Well, that's correct. That's correct. He was outside of Baghdad but saw mortar attacks and apparently had some interactions with the people there, according to his father, of course. And again, you'll hear this in the defense part of the case. He also then volunteered to go to Haiti and served in Haiti and apparently had a big role in collecting dead bodies and dealing with the children there, which had a big impact on him. But when we send our people into war and then question their response to it based on the type of war that they see, I don't know that that's necessarily fair.
It's also interesting. Heather pointed some things out to me that she's following the trial pretty closely. I have been of the opinion that he wasn't going to succeed with his insanity defense because I felt that he knew what he did was wrong. But Heather's reported some things that make me think differently. Well, that he was confused. He didn't know if he didn't know what he was doing. So
for everything that someone from the prosecution side can point out and say, this is a sign that he knew right from wrong, there is a counter to that in something that he said. So when he says, I killed them because they weren't talking to me in the car, there's also a statement that, but they're going to forgive me, it's no problem. Clearly, there's some disconnect there.
But then he knew to flee, though. The other side is that he knew to
that
flee.
That first
or he
statement tells you a great deal. I mean,
I just wonder again, can he get a fair trial? Considering that Chris Kyle is now an American icon, that American Sniper cleared a $300 million mark at the box office this weekend, that there's a New York Times bestseller that Chris Kyle wrote. All of those things, I mean, it's going to be an uphill battle.
But Joe, I mean, listen, you've got so many trials out there where that's a question. Here you've got 10 of the jurors are women. I haven't seen American Sniper. I know about it because I've been reporting on this. But there are enough people out there who aren't as into the mainstream media and into what's being reported that I think think that he can get a fair trial.
And I would predict if we continue to hear testimony similar to what Heather just said, you'll see a deal made before this trial is over to commit him to an insane
And he
asylum.
was trying to,
would
he
be
was
surprised
trying
at
to get
that.
help a number of times,
Yes,
right?
yeah,
and he was on medication. What was he on? Antipsychotic medication?
He was on a number. He was on lithium, risperidone, a bunch of medications, antidepressants, and that type
But
of
what's
thing.
hard to understand is when somebody is determined to be or diagnosed as being potentially harmful to others, and they're given medication, and then they're just released.
Well, and that's the problem. We get back to the same issue, the problem with the VA, and whether or not there's an issue where, you know, you have these wait lists and the inability to treat people. Is this a symptom of that problem?
And remember, this is a 4-course meal, and we have to get to our second course, which will be more like a dessert at this point because you only have about 90 seconds, but I'm sure you can be pithy
I
in
ate
this
all your
situation.
potluck.
My potluck has been decimated. Well, I'll just do it as a comment then. John Boehner's ticking me off. He actually wants us to believe that now that the House has done their job and passed legislation saying that they're going to link the president's immigration actions to funding the Department of Homeland Security, and now he's trying to say, well, it's all up to the Senate. We've done our job. How stupid does he think we are? Of course the Senate's not going to pass that. Of course there will be a filibuster, despite the fact that a few members of the House are saying, well, they should get rid of the filibuster now that they've had control for 6 weeks. We're not that stupid. If it happens, if they don't fund the Department of Homeland Security, we will know who is responsible. John Boehner, quit thinking Americans are so stupid.
10 seconds, do you think the government will actually be shut down? Because
Well, it's not the
Republicans
government,
are-
it's the Department of Homeland Security.
That's what I mean, that government
It
agency.
very well could be. It very well could be. And if he thinks Democrats are going to take the rap, he's in for a rude surprise.
I'm not sure the impact. If it's shut down, from what I've read, I'm not sure of the impact.
Well, because of those who have to work anyhow.
And on that note, coming up next, we have more potluck, and a little later we'll be talking about Saturday Night Live. Stick with us. This is the Daily Wrap. And welcome back to the Daily Wrap, everybody. I am Joe Concha, and we are continuing with our daily potluck. Now, this is my favorite part of the show, you already know that, where each of us brings a story to the show, just like bringing a dish to potluck dinner. So, Lisa, what do you got for us tonight?
Well, President Obama last week, in the middle of everything that's going on in the world, he created a video in the hopes of attracting young people to enroll in Obamacare. And the video was him with a selfie stick, as well as goofing off, mugging in front of the camera, for the camera in a mirror, unsuccessfully dunking a cookie in milk and so forth. Basically a bit of a silly video. However, this was on BuzzFeed. Now, BuzzFeed attracts 75 million millennials a month in this country alone.
Amazing. Right.
Within 2 hours, 2.6 million people viewed this. So, is this clever marketing? On one hand, he's trying to reach a certain audience. My thing is not so much did I like it. No, I have to personally say I really didn't like it. But going beyond that and saying, okay, the White House obviously thinks this is a good thing to do, I think the timing of it isn't the best. With what is going on, and we're seeing killings and beheadings and so forth, I don't feel that the president should necessarily be putting out a video like this for the public.
Here's the thing, Rick Unger. He's not running for re-election as far as I
not.
know. So reaching out to millennials and making sure he's... I get it if it's 2011 or 2012. When I see this, it's awkward to watch.
Well,
I gotta be honest.
I didn't think so, and he's not running for office, but he is trying to get people to sign up for the health insurance plan before this past Sunday's deadline. Look, I take your point that there's terrible things going on in the world, but there's always terrible things going on in the world. And you know what? It's important. It's as important to save lives by getting people to get health insurance as it is to be morose about people who are being sadly killed.
But does he have to be doing it the way he's doing
worked,
it?
as you just said. It got 2.5 million
But we don't know
hits
how
in
many
no
are going to
time.
sign up.
It couldn't hurt. It was very clever marketing. I enjoyed it.
Heather, you're a millennial.
Yeah.
So how did this affect you when you watched it?
I think it was focused towards the audience that it was supposed to be focused towards, and I think that they like it, and I think that it is something that is very effective. He knows how to deal with that audience. He did very well in the election because of that, and I think that the optics were bad, the timing was bad, but I think there's something to be said for Rick's argument that the timing is never good. This is a world full of a lot of problems, and there's always going to be something to counter that type of behavior.
You know what it reminds me of a little bit? Brian Williams loved the celebrity side of being an anchor more than he did the journalism side, right? And I sometimes get the feeling that the president likes the celebrity side of being president more than he does the other side of
he
it, which
likes
is
a lot.
governing.
I'll tell you what, I don't know how to put this, because I know better. Let's just say it that way. No, he really doesn't, actually. This president would be much happier if he didn't have to see anybody except his 3 or 4 close friends. So I don't think that's true.
He doesn't like the camera, the media?
No,
or
he really doesn't,
Really?
actually. No, but it's a big part of his job. If you ask me, I would say he needs to do more of it. He doesn't like selling.
Because when I don't like a camera, I don't call the girl who's in a hot tub with
With
a
cereal.
regular bathtub
With a
with
bathtub
Fruit
with
Loops.
Fruit Loops.
In other words, he's going out of his way. I know. I get what you're saying.
Right, when he's got 2 young daughters, you got to remember that too. So he knows a little bit about how to reach that audience, and some of it's been done very
But he's
effectively.
also the president, too. He's not a celebrity. There's a difference.
That's the age-old question. Is it beneath
Let me ask you a question.
But
Have
he's the
you ever
president?
met President Obama?
No.
If you did, you would find that when he introduced, he doesn't do a formal thing. He says, "Hey, how's it going?" Would that trouble you?
No, I would probably feel a little. I wouldn't expect it.
A conversation I have a feeling.
No.
Okay,
That's a
same
little, no.
A conversation I have a feeling we'll be having again, but we can't step on my potluck.
Yeah,
I only got 90 seconds.
can.
Anyway, I read with interest a story today about a university, the University of Denver, that is now offering a course teaching students how to sell pot effectively. Now, I get in Colorado that it's legal, right? And that's all well and good, and there are businesses that are doing very well, and obviously the revenue's there, and these kids probably need to know what needs to go into starting a business in this area,
For sure.
right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I just get this feeling that pot is now just so universally accepted. All right, and I'm not a prude. I did it a couple of times in college. I admit this. All right, but at the same time, it's like there are no ramifications for making pot legal, and now we're going to teach courses in it, and it's completely mainstream. And everybody forgets this one little fact, that there are already kids texting and driving already. And then there's drunk driving. And then you're going to have driving while high. And no one considers all of these ramifications. And now we're offering courses?
Your premise is way off.
Okay.
They're not teaching kids in law school how to go into the pot
Not law
business.
school, undergrad.
Well, in whatever school. I mean, I went to
Business
law
school.
school. I mean, I took, well, but I think the article that was about
Was it-
law
was it
school.
law
There are,
school, or-
but there are other.
So
Other
I
universities
took
teaching the
entertainment
same
law in law school. They weren't teaching me how to sing or start a rock and roll band. They're teaching you the law of that's relevant to those industries. Same thing with undergraduate. I'm sure they're not teaching you how to grow pot.
But even if they
No,
are,
I know, but it
might
just
be
even if
next,
they
so-
are, listen, it's legal. It's legal there. So somebody needs to know how to do it legally.
A business is a business. It seems like they're specifically focusing on this because so they can
But
fill
they
a
do
classroom.
in a lot
Everybody's
of them.
taking that course. Anyway, we got to go. Coming up next, NBC brings down the house with the 40th anniversary of Saturday Night Live. This is the Daily Wrap only on Newsmax TV. Welcome back to the show, everybody. I'm Joe Concha, your host, and no, I've never hosted Saturday Night Live, but last night, SNL celebrated their 40th anniversary. Don't you feel old right now? And celebrate they did. Here are a few highlights.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Saturday Night Live 40th anniversary special. Swing the bears, yeah, that's a ticket. You look marvelous. Yo, Sully, that's wicked. The nerds, the bees, and Tooters on the pedal. Rosammer, Dana, Dana. Well, isn't that special? It's a chronic white cult of SNL. It's a chronic white cult of SNL. Cheeseburger, cheeseburger, and Chevy Chase song. And no one can resist my sweaty ball.
Be here. You know, there are so many things about Saturday Night Live that people don't know. Like, for example, I just found out that one of the original cast members in 1975 was Brian Williams. I didn't... Next question. Yes, Tina.
Yeah, no, it's Sarah. I'm
Oh,
Sarah
sorry.
Palin.
Yes. Sorry. Oh, my God. Of course. Governor Palin, welcome.
Yeah, and I was just curious, Jerry, how much do you think Lauren Michaels would pay me if I were to run in 2016?
Run for president, Sarah? I don't think there's a number too big.
Okay, just hypothetically then, what if I were to choose Donald Trump as my running mate?
Sarah, your teeth.
I think Twitter would break if that happened, and we're going to talk more about that in a moment. Now, this show, I think it's still going on actually, but it was hours and hours on end, and too many good clips to show, so here are a couple more.
And welcome back to Celebrity Jeopardy. Sean, you control the board.
I'll take Horaj for 200.
It is who reads. It's about books. It's not whore ads. That's it, Connery. You're on a timeout. No. Please stop. Please stop. What in the... Burt Reynolds, what are you doing here?
Yeah, it's not my name.
All right, Turd Ferguson.
Sorry I'm late. I had to pick up my podium from the garage.
Well, you're not late. You weren't invited.
I'd like to solve the puzzle, Alex.
This isn't Wheel of Fortune.
Alex, would it be all right if I picked the next category?
Well, that depends, Sean. Are you going to take the game seriously?
Indeed, I will. And I'd also like to offer sincere apologies for the way I've been behaving tonight.
Well, thank you, Sean. That means a lot. Why don't you pick a category?
I'll take Le Tits Now for 800.
That's Let It Snow.
No, it's not. It's a French expression. Bonjour, mademoiselle. I'd like to see Le Tits Now.
Why can't we just sign those guys to lifetime contracts? Please. I mean, just do Celebrity Jeopardy with Will Ferrell and that whole crew, and Turd Ferguson, one of the great characters of all time for the rest of our lives. Anyway, let's keep going. Did you happen to catch Paul McCartney singing on the show? Wow.
Baby, I'm amazed at the way you love me all the time. Maybe I'm afraid of the way I love you. Baby, I'm amazed at the way you pull me all the time. You hung me on a line. Maybe I'm amazed at the way I really need you.
Okay. Well, Mr. McCartney, by the way, in case you're trying to keep track at home, 72 years old. Do we have any more clips there, control room? Let's roll it.
All right. Number 2, Lorne Michaels. All right. What can be said about Lorne Michaels that he himself has not already said about himself? I mean, the man is a genius. For 40 years...
-5.
Yep. He would say things like, okay, well, it got a laugh, but did it get the right laugh?
You know, it becomes that thing of like, you're really glad that it's Thursday.
Yeah. Mick liked it, Paul hated it, Marcy didn't see it. The Stings laughed. What do you think, Lorne?
Well, Lorne, I've got to go with Paul.
Yeah.
I thought it was like really, really, really soft.
Yeah, soft. And scene.
Now, if you, again, want to feel old, that's 24 years old, that skit. And they look exactly the same, Heather Hansen.
They look fantastic. You know, they were aiming for 3.8 million in the 18 to 34-year-old demographic. They got 7.8 million, which I think is a shocking number given that these are such old skits.
Well deserved.
Indeed,
Yeah.
40
Well
years,
deserved.
and I think this is going to go on for another 40, even though I
Yeah,
think it's fallen off as late, but that's just me. By the way, that number you shared before is 7.8 million, going up against Walking Dead and the NBA All-Star Game, so blew the doors off of everything, just amazing. Anyway, up next on the Daily Wrap, yay or nay, it's only on Newsmax TV. And welcome back to the Daily Wrap. It's time for Yay or Nay. Now, for those of you who don't know what this segment is about, I'm going to share a story with my panel, and they were to decide yay or nay as far as if they approve of it or not. You'll get it as you go along, okay? So let's get started. So this weekend, as you know, here in the Northeast, it was very, very cold. I was pretty much stuck inside my house. I got some cabin fever because of the bitter cold. And then I decided, you know what, I'm going outside. I don't care if it's -14 with the wind chill. Take a little walk, get some fresh air, stretch my legs. I actually had somebody shoot the video of me from behind walking through my backyard where I actually made some tunnels. Let's take a look. Yeah, so there I am. And as you can see, it's very, very cold. And I realized I left my keys Inside, I was locked out, and that was me. The next day when my wife found me, and that's what I look like without makeup or the hair and the blow drying and everything else like that.
You wish.
Yeah. So this is my yay or nay question, considering everything, and as you can see, I was able to thaw out. Would you accept all the ramifications of global warming if it meant ending this polar vortex?
I think if I lived in Massachusetts, it would be yay, but I feel badly complaining about it since I don't, so I say nay.
Mm-hmm.
Nay.
Nay?
Nay.
Global warming it gets rid of all of this. Or climate change, whatever you call it.
You know what? If it's real, no. I'm much more interested in my grandchildren's future than I am about my own comfort.
Very good. Lisa?
At this point, I would say yay because I am so done with this weather. I've had it. So I would accept, and that probably doesn't sound too good, but I would accept it. I'm just looking at the next few days.
A mixed panel. I would go with yay as well. I would take liquid hot magma at this point, rolling down Manhattan just to warm me up. Anyway, Radio 1 in England has banned Madonna from its airwaves, not for a racy or inappropriate song, or something crazy that she said. Oh no, this is because she is too old. This is true. Radio 1's audience is an 18 to 35 crowd, so she's moving over. And there you see her, 56 years old, by the way, where she looks quite good. So I guess the yay or nay, should radio stations be banning a 56-year-old Madonna just because she's old and irrelevant?
I don't know. I think that I say yay. I mean, I think there's a time for everybody, and she can go on to a different station, but it's time for the youth who follows her example and have learned by her to come up and fill that space. It's for what, 18 to 34 years old? She's a little bit higher than that right now.
But she makes music that still appeals to 18 to 35.
Obviously not.
Apparently not, I guess.
Well,
Rick, you're 56. What do you feel? How do you feel about this?
Yeah, I mean, if that's you get banned from TV and radio because you're 56. Good night, folks. That's my
She's not banned. She's just moved.
Very good, Lisa. You're within that age group that they're targeting.
I would say nay because would they be doing that to a male who's 56? I don't think
They
so.
might
I
be.
think
I bet they will.
I don't know.
I
don't know about
McCartney's
that.
Not on that station either.
Really? I don't know. That would be interesting
That's
to
a
see.
great question.
That would
What
be
about
interesting
Mick
to
Jagger?
see
What
if they're
about Paul
right.
McCartney?
All the males, or
David
this
Bowie.
is this a
Thank you.
sexism thing?
Thank you. Yeah, Mr. Unger just made my point for me, which is, hey, if Paul McCartney's good enough to play SNL's 40th anniversary and he's 72, why not a 56-year-old Madonna? That's just crazy. Let's go on to our next yay and nay, shall we, boys and girls? And it is when a loved one passes away. There are a lot of important things that need to be handled, but in the middle of informing family and friends, making funeral arrangements, and grieving, there is one very important loose end that may present itself. What do you do with their Facebook page? Well, don't worry, Mark Zuckerberg has that covered. Yep, that's right. Facebook just announced that their new legacy contract that allows users to appoint someone to manage their page after they die. Similar to a will, the user can choose what they would like their manager to do with their Facebook page after they pass on. They can delete it, they could archive it, or post a message with funeral arrangements, or continue to post as them, which would be a little bit creepy. If any of you are interested, you can sign up on the settings page of your Facebook, just in case you're feeling a little bit lightheaded right now. Yay or nay,
I'm
managing
a yay
Facebook?
on this one as well. I think that you want to control your image. You may want to control it after you're gone, and there's also bad things that people can do with your Facebook page after you're gone. So I think it's a good thing to protect.
Rick, quickly?
Trick question. I have no plans whatsoever to ever die, so why would I care about
the
it?
immortal
Facebook
Rick
stays
Unger.
up.
Yeah. Lisa.
I would say yay only because of the delete option. I wouldn't want someone posting anything on it, but they could delete it.
I say yay as well. In fact, I've already picked out the person that's going to be managing it for me. Anyway, the Yankees are honoring starting pitcher Andy Pettitte with Andy Pettitte Day on August 23rd. Get your tickets to Yankee Stadium. He will receive a plaque and his number will be retired. Wow. These honors come despite his admission he used HGH. The Yankees honoring an admitted HGH user. Yay or nay, Heather Hansen?
Nay, I'm not okay with honoring cheaters.
Agreed.
Actually, I'm gonna go yay because he really did not abuse it. He used it allegedly before it was known to be a problematic substance.
Interesting, Lisa.
I'm going to say yay because I'm an Andy Pettitte fan, and I'm just pro.
And that's the thing, right? I think that Andy is getting a pass here because he's such a nice guy and he admitted to it. But I'm sorry, you can't retire his number. Good Lord. Anyway, he sent out a tweet his last day in his White House on Friday in which he admitted his biggest failure of 2014 was not securing the disclosure of UFO files, adding hashtag the truth is still out there. Let's put up the picture real quick of Leon Panetta, who actually, yeah, there he is.
Oh, John Podesta.
John Podesta. Sorry about that. Podesta, there he is. So he wanted to go to Area 51, or at least know if it existed. Anyway, we got to go. We'll continue this tomorrow night. This was the Daily Wrap from New York. Good night, everybody.